This is my daughter Alexis at 14 months old. She hadn't had anything worse than an ear infection and a birthmark on her head at this point in her life. She was walking, talking, no different than any other 1-year-old. On April 3rd, 2008, my wife Tiffany and I dropped Alexis off at daycare. Alexis was upset when we left, so she was put in timeout by her babysitter. But Alexis followed her out of the room, so she was put in timeout a second time. Once again, Alexis followed the babysitter out of the room. It was just before she was set down for her third timeout that, according to investigators and doctors, Alexis was shaken and thrown. This is my daughter 72 hours later. She's been in a medically induced coma for 3 days. This is the most critical time in her life. Alexis's brain is at its maximum swelling point. The soft tissue in her brain is being pressed against her skull, permanently destroying parts that can never be recovered. If one part is destroyed, she might be blind for the rest of her life. Another, and she may never be able to eat or drink. It may cause her to never be able to move one side of her body, or to never be able to read or control her emotions. On top of that, it still remains in doubt whether she will even survive, and there is a better chance than not that she will be in this state for the rest of her life. All of this because of a split-second bad decision made by someone who knew better.
Alexis would survive, but not one aspect of her life has been easy since that day.
That's usually what happens.
Yeah, when I get the camera.
The assault left her blind, unable to eat or drink, talk, or move her arms and legs. Nearly 3,000 hours of intense, sometimes unbearably painful rehabilitation has allowed some of those deficits to return. But there is no such thing as a full recovery from what is commonly known as shaken baby syndrome or abusive head trauma.
In his 2008 book, American Sniper, Navy SEAL Chris Kyle, the most decorated sniper in American history, writes of his experience and rehabilitation recovering from a knee injury. He also had a machine that sent a shock to my muscles through electrodes, Kyle writes. It is clearly a form of torture that should be outlawed by the Geneva Convention, even for use on Navy SEALs. Our now 6-year-old Alexis has done this same electrical stimulation treatment, or in Kyle's words, torture, 3 times a week for more than 5 years.
She's getting shocked in 10 different places on her arm and on her back. And what it's doing is it's giving you electric pulses that go through, and they hurt, yep, but it's doing electric pulses going through your arms to make your arm move at the right time to go around.
Those 5 years of work on Alexis's right hand and arm has included hundreds of hours of rehab. All of that has given Alexis more functionality, but it remains able to do just a small fraction of what it normally would.
There you go. Stay tucked.
Good job.
Alexis has had dozens of Botox injections in her arm, hand, and shoulder, both while under anesthesia and while awake. Just 3 months ago, she underwent major surgery to remove a tendon in her thumb to hopefully allow her to one day open her hand. If you were to look at a scan of Alexis's brain in its current state, you would find about 1/4 of the back left side to be an empty hole, dead brain matter that dissolved away after the injury. You'd also see holes in other areas, a consequence of the back and forth crashing against the skull that occurred when she was shaken and thrown.
When a child's shaken, their head goes through the movement of an arc. Their neck muscles are very, very weak, and their head is very heavy compared to their body. So there is a very large amount of rotating that those heads go through, frequently to the point where their chin will hit their chest and the back of their head will hit their back. And that movement in itself, actually, what it does is it basically shakes the brain apart. And that's what happens in these children. So the brain gets pulled apart, and that's what eventually leads to them stopping breathing, losing blood supply, and then the brain continuing to cycle into injury and sometimes even death.
Alexis.
I went excellent because my mom and dad are here and I'm gonna get shooted.
Activities like school are a constant challenge for Alexis. She's very, very smart. In fact, much more analytical than most kids several years ahead of her. But putting her in a stimulating environment like a classroom and asking her to reference information stored in her brain quickly is oftentimes too much. Her long-term memory is remarkable. She'll remember the name of the checkout girl at the grocery store 3 months later. But the short-term memory portion of her brain struggles to function. She'll sometimes ask when we're going to eat dinner, just 15 minutes after we've finished the meal. We've been lucky enough to have an incredible support system at Alexis's school, but it's clear that it'll be an uphill battle she'll fight throughout her childhood.
I want to give you a hug.
Alexis's everyday life at home is the hardest and most constant reminder of what happened to her 5 years ago. Common daily activities for a 6-year-old are the far opposite for Alexis.
Good job. Good job.
From getting dressed to eating. From getting out to the car to playing.
You okay?
Alexis sleeps with us every night because she doesn't have the dexterity and motor planning to reposition herself or even pull the covers up if they fall off. Her brain injury has also impacted the area of her brain that regulates sleep. It's not uncommon for me to wake up in the middle of the night to her open eyes, waiting for me to open mine and talk to her for a while. Alexis struggles to play by herself as it takes all of her energy to stay balanced, and she only has one functional hand to play with. She burns about 1/5 of the calories of her peers because she isn't able to run around all day, so her weight is a constant battle. Her life is and will always be hard, and it is all because of a few short seconds of anger when she was just 14